Hello, folks. This is Joe from MIGeekScene. I'm here at Cherry Capital Comic Con after hours here with Gene Ha.
Hey, everybody.
Well, hello again, Gene.
Hello.
Hello. Gene is...
We have a history.
Yes, we do. Gene is a wonderful artist. He's, with Alan Moore, helped create Top 10, the 49ers, and his own creator-owned comic book, May, which we'll talk about later. So let's get into this.
Yeah.
All right, well, Gene, I mentioned Top 10 at the beginning of this. I found out about you because of Top 10. Like, I went on an Alan Moore run, and then I found out about that comic series, and I thought it was amazing. So when they said that you were going to be here, I was super excited about that. So before this interview begins, thank you for being here, sir.
I am a guest of the show, and they have treated me beautifully, so I'm grateful to be here.
So while you were creating Top 10, were there any standout moments in this series for you?
Well, I mean, you got to understand, when I was, say, 15, 16 years old, my favorite comic books were all written by Alan Moore. Well, Alan Moore and Matt Wagner. But getting to work with Alan Moore was one of the biggest thrills of my career. And just getting to talk to him on the phone and finding out how brilliantly creative he is was just the biggest thrill possible.
Oh, for sure. Man, one of my favorite things while reading the Top 10 series, because I had to reread through it again while doing research for this, was all the background cameos and the mashups. I like the Charlie Brown Dr. Doom mashup.
Yeah.
But I do have a question for you as far as like a cameo. Was that Jesse Custer from Preacher reading the eulogy at Girl One's funeral?
Yes, it was. And I'll say all the most clever and funniest cameos and Easter eggs were all in the script. He didn't write most of the cameos, but the best ones were his.
Oh, okay. Now, did you hide yourself, Alan Moore, or Xander Cannon in the background?
In the first issue, just after I signed on Xander Cannon to join the series, he didn't work in the first 13 pages. There's a scene inside of a subway car where you see a guy in kind of a early 60s or early 70s Cyclops-type costume. But he has a Z on his chest, and he's carrying a small cannon under his arm. So that is literally not Xander Cannon, but that is a Xander Cannon.
Well played, sir.
Later on, inside the 49ers, the two characters were based on Xander. So Jet Boy was kind of a more youthful version of Xander, and Captain, I can't remember his name right now, the captain of the police precinct is a bulkier, more broad-shouldered version of Xander. But if you average the two, it looks like the real one.
Well, I mean, since you brought up 49ers, was there a plan to continue the series, or was that just a one and done?
Alan Moore always planned to do a prequel to the series because he knew what the history was and he wanted to tell that story. So that was in there. But he also had a decent number of plans. I mean, also Smax Barbarian was planned. And as soon as he described to me the history of Jeff Smax, he then described the back history of him, which could only be explored inside of a separate series. So, yeah, I mean, he had all those plans. He didn't plan to go on with it beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I did like the Three Stooges cameo, too, like that famous golf pose that you threw in there. Oh, yeah, my four eyes saw all of that. Now, while I was doing research, it looked like they never ever collected what was it, 4 issues that you did of season 2?
No.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know it got canceled, but is there a plan to revisit season 2 down the road?
Okay.
I mean, I know that's something.
Okay, so around the time of the New 52, but a little before then, I decided I wanted to work on more. I wanted to finish off that story. So Top 10 season 2 with Xander Cannon, and I figured the best way to do it was to sign up to do a 2-year exclusive with DC, and somewhere during that time I would work on Top 10. Mm-hmm. So I negotiated my contract. With DC, I was not going to work with a few other companies, and they raised my page rate and gave me some bonus stuff. And suddenly it was a lot more expensive to hire Gene Ha to work on a book. And they had me exclusive for 2 years, and suddenly it became economically impractical to put me on a top 10 book. So that was I should have negotiated top 10 into the contract. But I then essentially negotiated top 10 out of the contract by making myself too expensive to draw it.
Okay.
And that's the last time I had a chance to really do it. And then after that, I had a lot of other things bubbling in my skin, in my head that I really wanted to get out, like May.
Fair enough. We'll definitely hit up May later on in this interview. But I'd like to actually step away from top 10 and actually go into some things that were important to you while you were growing up and whatnot.
Yeah.
So why was Matt Wagner's Mage series a life-changing comic for you?
Oh, okay. So I have this phrase. It's based on a Samuel Johnson quote, but his is rather is very, very florid. And I have a very simple way of phrasing, which is that the power of art is to make the everyday magical and the magical everyday. And the power of Mage is that it's a series set inside of a rather realistic kind of Midwestern-y, Pittsburgh-y type town, where a guy who wears jeans and t-shirts and athletic shoes and dressed like me as a teenager finds everything around him is magical. Like the bums in the alleyway are like monsters from another realm, and the people who own the casino are evil fairies with unbelievable magical powers, and that he himself is an heir to the Knights of the Round Table, and his sword is a glowing green baseball bat. And this was able to turn the whole world around me growing up in South Bend into some place where it felt like magical stuff could be found anywhere around the corner. And it's that whole thing of turning the everyday magical and the magical every day. This taught me the power of art in everything. And it's not just comics. It's movies, it's stories, it's music, it's paintings. And a really great painting, part of the power is that it changes how you look at the world. An impressionist painting changes how you look at light. So that's the power of art.
Now, was Why I Hate Saturn by Kyle Baker another one of those comics that had a profound effect on you?
Oh, again, it was another one of those. This was what felt like much later in life. So I read Mage when I was in high school. I read Why I Hate Saturn right at the start of my career. So it's like maybe I had like 1 or 2 years in, and it took like me, Kyle Baker is a guy who is not a 20-something white woman, but he wrote this story about two main characters who were sisters, and who had this just amazing fighting relationship between the two of them, where they're always kind of bickering and stuff like that, but not in the same way that brothers do. Where in brothers, it's kind of a thing where it kind of breaks down every once in a while into, okay, I'm just going to punch you. And then that's going to settle things for a little bit. And on girls, it's this whole thing of like trying to pretend that you're not being the boss, and then you're being the boss, or like you're teasing the other one, you're trying to bring them down a peg, but it's mostly verbal and social. And it was just fascinating reading this. And it just introduced me to a whole world of like, just opened up a whole section of humanity's experience, which I'd never seen before because I grew up without sisters. And I just began talking to friends who were women and reading books on like different communication styles. And I just realized, wow, this whole world was invisible to me before this. And again, it's a piece of artwork that changed how I saw things. And it started this whole process that led me to doing a story that's creator-owned that's about two sisters, which is an experience I've never been through.
Have you read his Birth of a Nation comic?
No, I haven't read that yet.
I would recommend that, actually.
I do not read enough comics, and that's kind of the tragedy of my comic book lifestyle, is that I have almost no free time. So I try to keep up on the news because I try to be a good voter. I try to read stuff I need to read for my job. And then after that, there's almost no time because every waking hour I try to sit at a table, or also being a good citizen, being a good husband, and being a good responsible artist. And it's making me into a horrible comic geek in that I don't read enough comics.
Well, that's fair. I mean, his comics, Birth of a Nation and the Nat Turner one, those are pretty good.
I own the Nat Turner ones, and it's on my pile of stuff to read, but I haven't read it yet.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, obviously, if you know the subject.
I know the history. Yeah, I know the history. But
I mean, obviously, the way it starts out, and then it just goes dark, you felt the gravity of the whole situation when you're reading. Well, at least that's what I felt when I was reading it.
Yeah.
Now, have you been able to relay these stories back to Kyle or Matt themselves, like in person?
Yeah. Let me see. So, I got Kyle Baker's permission. I told him how much I'd based May on his book Why I Hate Saturn, and he was fine with it. And he's entertained by the fact that, and it's not totally stealing it from it. But it's definitely in the fan fiction direction.
Okay. Now, I realize that you're not heavily into manga. Besides Akira, are there any?
I like manga, but I don't follow it in the same way. I can't read enough comic books now that includes manga.
Okay. Yes. Was there any other series besides Akira that you've enjoyed?
The Legend. I'm not going to pronounce this right. The Legend of Kamui.
Kamui?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fantastic one. I read that when I was in college, and it was just this epic tale about this ninja who didn't want to be a ninja anymore, and then he's being hunted down by his ninja clan, and he's just trying to live a normal, boring life. And he just gets to see this epic view of kind of medieval samurai Japan and different levels of society, and then once in a while, ninjas break in and try to kill him.
Okay.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Because I remember when I was reading Top 10, I saw Tetsuo's name in graffiti, and then I saw Astro Boy flying in the background. So there were some nice references that you threw in back in the day. Now, I know you're busy, but do you or have you watched anime like in the past?
I have watched some anime, yeah.
Well,
My wife is a YA librarian, and she runs an anime club, and every once in a while I'll go to it.
Awesome. Was there any shows or movies that you've enjoyed in the anime realm?
Oh, I'm going to say that, I like anime, but I tend to like the manga better.
Okay, that's fair. That's totally fair.
I'm
depending
one of
on
those
the series.
snobs.
Well, it really depends on the series, though.
Yeah. I can really think of cases where I like the anime better than the original. Like a manga I really love is Death Note.
Okay.
I think that one's really brilliant too. But there tends to be some things about how anime is done, like the very rapid talking style and the women talking in really cutesy voices that just annoy the heck out of me. And then the limited animation sometimes kind of annoys me a little bit too. And these things are in my head when I read a manga. It doesn't have the super stiff animation. Everything flows. Everything's beautiful. People talk American naturally to me and stuff like that. So it just is it's a better experience than watching anime.
Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
I would recommend Cowboy Bebop.
I've heard good things about that.
26 episodes, self-contained. No, it was not based on a manga at all.
Okay.
They made like two spin-off mangas after the fact.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Cowboy Bebop is amazing. It has an excellent soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like heavily into jazz. I mean, it's a cool series, and I'm not really one of those people like subbed versus dubbed. I like both.
Yeah.
But I would highly recommend watching it dubbed when you have the time.
Okay.
Obviously, you're a busy dude.
Yeah.
So,
like I'm also a fan, obviously, like most people of Studio Ghibli, but I haven't had time to watch all of them, and I really want to get around to those someday too. And it's just like,
no, that's fair. But like I said, 26 episodes. Watch one a day. You'll have it done in a month, and you'll be good to go.
If you think I can watch one episode a day, you don't understand the comic book schedule I live.
Oh no, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, for down the road,
yeah.
Like, just in case one day like your hands are cramped and you're like,
Yeah.
I need to soak them for the day, and I'm gonna go watch some anime. So you're a bit of a history fan.
Yeah.
Are there any particular moments from history anywhere in the world that you find fascinating?
Okay. The rise of singular sociopathic figures taking over countries is fascinating, of course. So, I mean, obviously, the rise of Caesar and the rise of Napoleon are amazing. And these singular figures who defined an age and, by their sociopathy, destroyed nations is terrifying. Also, the rise of Genghis Khan. But a lot of people look at these people and think, wow, what admirable people I would like to be like. And to me, it's kind of like, they are amazingly talented people who decide to use their talents for evil. They're scary, scary evil people.
For sure. Now, have you read The Beast of Chicago, The Murderous Career of H.H. Holmes by Rick Geary?
No.
The guy who was that, I guess, serial killer who made the murder house in Chicago.
Yeah, it's the same subject as Devil in the White City.
Yes. I've never seen the movie. I found out about this person by reading the comic by Rick Geary.
Yeah.
So that's another fascinating comic. Obviously, when you would have the time, you could put it on your to-do list. But it's black and white, and from what I understand, it's historically accurate and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you go into any era of history of any nation, you just find out fascinating stories. I mean, I assumed from my youth and from my studies that the most fascinating, like, say, medieval history was English medieval history. And it turns out, if you go to any country's medieval history from that time period in Europe, they're all fascinating. I mean, Hungarian history is just really screwed up and really fascinating, and just, they were kicking butt all over the place, but they happened to have neighbors who were like German, the German nations and stuff like that. And it's just like, there's only so far they could, like, and the Ottomans, but all of these nations have fascinating histories. I based a lot of the culture of the other world inside of May on Czech history. And Czech history is fascinating because there are almost no moments of military glory inside of Czech history, but they're witty and snarky about it all throughout, and they're just fascinating people. And they're just so many things that are totally admirable about, like, just in Czech history.
I mean, that was one of the things that stood out to me when I was reading May, and yes, I will. I'm just going to say that for now.
I'm not just trying to transition. It was just so
No,
much
no, no.
the way I think now is just based on things I've put into May. So it just keeps
No.
coming
I mean,
up.
this is
So,
a
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
It's not like a sales pitch for you or anything like
Yeah.
that. And I never even took it that way. But we'll get back to May. I promise you.
Yeah.
So you
Watch out.
You've mentioned that you enjoy the art of Claire Stigliani. Is there anything in particular with her art that resonates with you?
Also, this is embarrassing.
Claire Stigliani.
I
She's
sometimes
the one
forget
who
names.
does like manga style art, but it's
Okay. I was thinking of comic book artist, right? She's an artist I discovered out of I believe it was Madison in Milwaukee, and it's these really crazy fairy tale settings of like boxes that look like little puppet theaters with little puppet figures she's constructed in these weird, creepy scenes from the worst moments of actual fairy tales as opposed to the sanitized versions that Disney did. And they're just terrifying and haunting and beautiful. And yeah, it's amazing stuff.
Have you been able to purchase any of her art?
Oh, no, I'm pretty sure it's getting more expensive every moment.
Yeah, like it's going up right now as we speak.
No, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Yeah, there's a gallery that had some of her early work, but they were selling out when I asked them about it a few years ago. And I asked for, like, I was wondering, asked for the range of price on the phone. They were like, just laughed like, if you have to ask the price, you're not interested in buying it.
Oh, that mentality! My
Yeah.
goodness. I
It's
mean,
that type of stuff.
how do they know that you wouldn't have the money? You
Well,
know?
they were right. Probably, I guess. I mean, I'm not going to be blowing thousands of dollars on a piece of artwork to put in my living room. So,
No, that's fair. That's completely fair. Well, speaking of artwork, in the past, you've expressed that you enjoy the works of Spanish artists such as Jordi Burnett, Paulo Rivero, and Carlos Pacheco. With that being said, have you checked out the Black Sad comic by Juan Diaz Canales and Juanjo Guanito?
not yet. I've seen it. I had a chance to buy it in the original. I think it was. I got. Was it originally in French? I think that's
Yes.
published was French.
Yes, it was published in France.
Yeah, I was in France when it first came out, and people were telling me you need to check out this comic, and I still haven't had a chance. To do it.
Beautiful artwork.
I have seen the artwork, and it's really beautiful. And yeah,
And it's a great noir series, too.
Yeah.
I thoroughly dig it, and I would love for them to actually reissue like the whole series like in a big trade or something like
yeah.
that.
I'm gonna. I'm friends with in Chicago with the people who run Doom Rocket, which is a comics news website, and part of the reason I enjoy talking with them and hanging out with them once in a while is because they read they read like 100 times more comics per month than I do, and I can ask them about what's the interesting stuff you've seen, and they can explain why it's interesting and fascinating. And it's just like I have to live my comic geek lifestyle as opposed to my comic pro lifestyle vicariously through other people's enjoyment. So I have a fantasy where like I'm gonna get a year off, and I'm just gonna like take 2 weeks and take some beer and a big hunk of hard cheese and a big knife and some bread and some olives and hide in the woods and just read comics. And when I lived in Detroit and was just out of art school, every week I would go to the comic shop, which was Comics Cafe in Ferndale, which is no longer there. I'd buy my comics for the week, drop by the local fresh market, buy some olives, feta cheese, and a loaf of French bread, go back to my apartment. I'd read comics, eat olives and cheese and bread, and it was just like the best moment of the week. And I was also drawing comics at the time too, and I still had just enough time to read and do stuff like that then, and I miss those days.
I know how that goes, like running a website, which is a full-time job, creating content for that, and having like a full-time girlfriend and another full-time job. I don't really get much time to do the things that I'm covering for my website. So I don't get to play video games so much. I don't get to read comic books or read anime. And like once a year, I take a 2-week staycation where like I'll have all my content done for like the next 2 weeks. I'll come out and I shut myself off from everything. Like I'll just binge watch anime and play video games. I'll upload my content like during that day for like an hour, and then I just cut everything off. I'm not to that point like I'm pulling in massive amounts of money or anything like that, where I'd have to keep that machine rolling. But for the time being, I'm allowing myself time to decompress and enjoy life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you get into either comics or comics journalism for the money, you've made a sad, sad mistake.
Oh, yeah. I've never had any, in all honesty, I've never had any aspirations of being rich while doing this. It's just like, I do this because like it's a positive cathartic outlet for me because I love geek culture and I want to show it off in a positive manner and all the wonderful people that I've met through this scene.
Yeah, there's this funny kind of repeating thing of deluded conspiracy theorists who think that people in comics or comics journalism are getting rich off it. Like, oh, you must have been paid to do that review. And it's like, really you think there's money in this business, or that a comic company has enough money lying around and cares enough about one reviewer to actually pay them to give a bad review to somebody else? Or, it's just like, that's not how it works, buddies.
No, I'd like to segue into this next thing. We have a mutual friend in Corinne Roberts.
Yeah.
How did you find out about her?
It was probably, was it 2-3 years ago at C2E2?
Oh, okay.
And she No Comfort and Adam from a few years back before that.
Good people, too.
Yeah, they were across the way from me, and Corinne was across the table there at their table, too. And I needed gifts for some friends, and I was looking across the way thinking, where am I going to find these gifts? And I saw her stuff, and it's like, oh, she has beautiful watercolor paintings of stuff these people love. I'm going to buy some of these and give them to them, and this is perfect. And I am mostly otherwise stuck at the table, so I can't wander around and shop enough. So that made it simple. And she's also she's talented, and she's fun to hang out with and talk with and geeky. So yeah, we just became friends after that. But
She's
just kind of like,
pretty funny, too.
yeah,
I love Corinne. Her artwork is amazing, and I'm glad that she's taken the steps to doing it full time because when you have talent that immense, I hope that you would take the steps to actually try pursuing it full time instead of being stuck at some job that.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I know a lot of people who I'm friends with in Artist Alley, and I'll chat with them and talk with them and stuff like that. But part of what makes her story kind of stunning is how she's been able to take it and actually, do. It's not even just a matter of willing to, but just having the chops to make it a going concern. Mm-hmm. Very few people do that. I know so many people who are talented, but can't figure out a way to make money off of it. And she's doing it. That takes gumption. She's got drive.
And I like the fact that she bases it on a lot of subjects and topics instead of just the same thing. Corinne, when you're watching this or listening to this, I love your work. You know this. That's why I interviewed you a long time ago, and I'm thankful that you consider me a friend because you've always been super cool to me. But I actually wanted to talk about 2 comics that you introduced me to.
Oh, cool.
Thank you for introducing me to Nimona by Noel Stevenson and Giant Days. So
okay, so I'm through my friend Lowell Francis, who's a gaming writer. He introduced me to the work of John Allison, and then I became friends with John Allison. And then in his inside of his blog on his comic strip, then he mentioned this art student who was doing an amazing comic called Nimona, and then I became a fan of that. And then way faster than either me or John expected, it just blew up into something giant. And it's now, I think it's going to be a movie now or something.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's been licensed for, it's either a TV show or a movie. I'm pretty sure it's a movie.
I enjoyed the blend of modern day technology and magic.
Yeah, it's brilliant and it's complex. And the thing is, she had not planned it as an epic when she did. She didn't figure out all the complexity of it. It's just, she took a silly situation where a mad scientist, evil mad scientist, is in his castle and somebody knocks on the door and then says, I'm your new apprentice. And like, did the League send you? And then he figures out that she's not, but she has superpowers. So it's like, I would like to have an apprentice with superpowers. And it's just, there was no more depth to it than that. It was just a silly knock-knock joke type situation. And then she just kept pushing it and then making the characters deeper and more interesting. And just, it became this amazing story. And it's just the most complexly written characters and interesting and angry and bitter and wanting to be friends with each other and then getting ready to kill each other, and it's so complex and beautiful. It's if you get a chance to read it, it's out from I can't remember which one. It's one of those actual New York book publishers like Random House or Harcourt. But it's
1 volume. You can do it.
Yeah, it's so brilliant. And if you read it, you will see why anybody who read it would want to turn into a movie or a TV show.
So, yes, Nimona's been pretty cool, but what I wanted to talk to you about was May, your new creator-owned comic. So what is it about?
You know what? I was going to say I'll get out a copy, but I literally gave out all the free readers copies I have today to people who gave me drawings in exchange. So I have this giant pile of drawings inside my bag back there for every copy I brought with me. They're beautiful and funny. But let me tell you about the actual comic. May is the story of 2 sisters from rural Indiana. And 7 years ago, the older sister, Abby, disappears without a trace. There's no note. Nobody knows what happened. So all this time, the younger sister May, the main character, has been worrying about her sister, taking care of their aging dad. And then a little after she graduates from high school, she gets a call from the sheriff's office saying they found her sister, and she's really drunk. So May has to pick her up. And when May and her best friend get there, Abby is dressed in a crazy costume that looks like Paul Revere in the Revolution, and has this tale about how she's been in another world, fighting against mad scientists and monsters, and leading a tribe of barbarian warrior cats into battle. And it's all really hard to believe until some of the monsters start following her back into Indiana. And that's how the younger sister May gets dragged into her older sister's adventures in another world.
So since we were talking about May, it was interesting to find out that the parallel world was populated with Czechs and blacks, at least the first major city.
Yeah.
And the line about fairy tale worlds being lily white was quite the social commentary. Was this what you had in mind when you came up with the story, or did it just happen organically?
It happened a little bit organically in that I didn't want to go with a fantasy world with those kind of mock Old English names like Ye Old Shop and Blackmore and that type of name. It sounds like I grew up inside of a suburb called Knollwood on a street called Lincroft, crossed by Foxcross, and I just grew to hate those names. And I hate it when I read them in fantasy novels. I didn't want to go with German names because they sound like heavy metal bands.
I love metal bands, but that's neither here nor there.
I know, but it made it silly to me. It made it really silly to me, and I didn't want to go with Japanese names because I didn't want my anime influences to be that obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found Czech, which just visually is beautiful and totally alien still. So that kind of led me from there. And then during the period when I wanted to set the colonization of Shimmerterran, I'm going to mispronounce that. But if you go onto my website, it has the proper pronunciation. It's hard for me to remember it because it's Czech. Anyway, Shimmerterran was populated at a time when the Czech lands were still controlled by the Austrian Empire. So essentially all these scientists who are Czech did not want the government to find out about this other land. So they couldn't tell the government about it, so they couldn't make it public. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the Czech lands, the Czechs populating, it'd be the Austrian Empire.
Okay.
And then it made sense that the other people they could tell are Czech Americans, and the other people that the Czech Americans could tell would be the African Americans, because they're another group who can't tell the government, because then the government would take it over and would find a new homeland instead of them.
Okay. Was there a particular inspiration for the character design, specifically for the big eyes and full lips?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely supposed to be anime and especially Pixar influenced.
Okay. Now, is the color of their eyes a sign of things to come, story-wise?
Yes, but it's not been revealed in the story, so I don't want to give it away yet.
Okay.
You also see that their eyebrows and their hair are both purple, and almost nobody really dyes their eyebrows. Their hair just naturally grows purple.
I mean, I noticed that, but it was just like I was wondering if it was a sign of things to come. So I guess my hunch is slightly correct.
I will say that I do not believe in having a story where there is a chosen one, though.
Okay.
The characters are not the chosen ones. There is no chosen ones happening inside of our lives. We just make our future as we go along. And you have some advantages and disadvantages, and you just hopefully use them for good.
All right. Now, Volume 1 is being released through Lion Forge in July. Will this volume be different from the Dark Horse version?
There will be additional material and different trade dress and stuff like that. It will, for instance, include the printed version of the list of definitions in the back and pronunciation guide and all that type of stuff. So it will include some different stuff, yeah.
Okay, and final two questions. If people wanted to find out more about you online, where can they go?
They can go to geneha.com. So if you can spell my name, you can find me online.
And what would you like to say to your fans throughout the years?
I have been blessed by having just amazing, wonderful, geeky fans who are not insane, mean, fanatic trolls. I mean, I am so grateful that you have come into my life and supported me and been my friends, and I love all of you so much because you are big, giant dorks.
All right. Well, folks, this is Joe at the Cherry Capital Comic-Con with Gene Ha. Take it easy.
And he is a big, giant dork. I love him, too. Joe's great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.